All right, welcome. Uh-oh. We'll do it again. All right. Okay, everyone. We had two music intros. I wish I could say that was intentional, but it wasn't. But I'd like to welcome everybody to season 2, episode 6. And if you're wondering, how did we get to episode 6 when there's only 4 weeks in January? Well, we had 5 Sundays, and we also had a special goalie edition at the beginning of the month that drove a lot of viewership. So we're pretty excited to have 6 episodes in the month of January. Listen, this is the long anticipated episode of the Neutral Zone. Everybody here has been waiting with bated breath to hear and fulfill your suspense and your appetite on what's going on. First, it's very important for me to welcome back Frank Klein to the show. Frank's one of our first guests, as you can imagine, when we first kicked off the show. He likes to remind us that he does really well for our ratings. And so we do want to thank you, Frank, for helping us with our ratings. We have a very, very packed show. But let's get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way, Stomps, if that's okay.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, depending on where you live, you probably woke up this morning to about upwards of 9 or maybe even 10 inches of snow. And, we were talking about having to take care of snow removal. And but Frank, I envisioned the situation where you were sipping a espresso in front of the fire while your wife and kids were out there shoveling. But apparently that's not what happened.
No. Although I like that fantasy. How can we make that happen? I was out there last night. I was out there again this morning. My snowblower just broke down. And I won't be able to get it fixed until Tuesday. So this weekend and last weekend too. I'm out there with the shovel, and I have a pretty big driveway. So
You
if
do.
I'm sweaty, that's why. A little eye candy for you guys, a little sweaty Frank.
Yeah.
I have a 1983 3-horsepower Toro that my dad gave me many years ago. And it's an electric start or a pull start. It's tough to start it, but once it goes, it gets the job done. I'd be dead without it. So
Nice.
What did I tell you last night, Stomps, about snowblowers?
it's cheating.
It's cheating. I mean, I shoveled 4 times. I was up at 4 a.m. shoveling today. Now, I don't know, Frank, if you're going to have the Masters practice, but if you are, you're probably going to have a lot of guys that are crippled out there.
Yeah, we'll be out there today. Are you guys coming?
That's the plan.
You're filled according to the app.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get some dropouts, but at least the street in front of my driveway doesn't look too bad. So I think people should be able to get there today.
Good. Good. And I don't know if they're going to be moving too well, but I mean, is it Masters? You going to have some younger guys there today, or are you going to have, is it exclusively Masters today?
I think Fredette will be out there, and I think that might be the only one. So it'll be and Jeremy's an old soul, so he fits right in anyhow.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't know, there's a Masters practice today at 2:40 p.m. until 4:10 at Salt Creek Sports Center in Palatine. So make sure you attend. They've been going pretty well, Frank. You weren't at last week's, but it was a good continuation of what you started already. So that's good. Hey, guys, a couple of things in the NHL. I don't know if you guys watched the games yesterday, but if you haven't, you got to go back and watch the highlights of Connor McDavid's goal. He scored a beauty against the Leafs, and it pains me to say this, but he scored a beauty, and it's highlight. I mean, there was a Patrick Kane's goal scored earlier this year. I was putting that up there as one of the best goals, but I think McDavid just overtook him. It wasn't a losing cause for the Leafs, of course. They ended up losing in overtime. But Billy Jacques wanted me to share that as a goalie, he was very happy with Frederik Andersen's save with a few seconds. I think he's a closet Leaf fan. Hey, you guys, are you Bulls fans? Or you don't like basketball?
Well, the Bulls have been so bad for so long. I grew up, obviously with Michael Jordan, and that was like my team. And I hung with them for years and years. But I want to say the last 5 or 6, 7 years, I hadn't really tuned in too often.
Right.
But I do know about the events of last night. It just seems that typical Bulls, right?
Yeah, but it's a shame what Damian Lillard did to the Bulls fans yesterday. What is it? 5 seconds to go, down by 5, and the Trailblazers come back with 2 3-pointers. Amazing. But again, I think
Always
the
have
Bulls,
to play to the final whistle.
yeah, yeah.
We're going to work on that in the Masters practice today.
Yeah, that's great.
Don't
I
take
mean,
anything for granted.
for sure, for sure. Stomps, any other things you want to talk about? I mean, I'm sure you have something to say about Woodridge before we get started. I don't want to forget about Woodridge. We can't have a show without talking about Woodridge, and it is a Sunday.
I was going to post something on the app, cleanup crew, anyone, but I didn't want to ruffle any feathers.
Please ruffle some feathers.
Well,
That's what we're all about.
Well, yeah.
Well,
No,
speaking
there's no chance today for outdoor games.
well, speaking of ruffling feathers, I think it's a great segue into what we're going to talk about today. And I'm just kidding, everybody. This is not about ruffling feathers, but we're going to have some fun here. Obviously, welcoming back Frank to the show. Frank's going to share with everybody. He works closely with a couple of different guys on the management team for the Masters, planning and developing an efficient process to select what Frank's going to share with you, a methodology on how to bring players to the Philadelphia tournament the week of April 9th through the 11th. There's some work being done right now, but Frank and the team has solidified a process that Frank's going to start off with sharing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try to spend some time, because we know we have some players today that are tuned in. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the players, and some of the strides, or not so many strides, that players have made over the years. And then we're going to open it up for some Q&A, which Stomps, as our Q&A subject matter expert, is going to lead through. And then I'll share a couple of questions. I've received some texts. I wish I could say they were anonymous, but they're not. People want to ask Frank the tough questions, and I don't think Frank's shy of talking to the media. So we'll go that way. So, hey, Frank, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right. So, sorry about that. I know we get, and I've been getting a lot of questions myself, texts, people pulling me aside at the rink. And the big question on everybody's mind is, what are the rosters? Because we're going to have 2 teams for this Masters tournament. What are the rosters? How are they going to shake out? And which team am I on? That's what everybody wants to know.
It's not just Pinky. It's everybody. I thought it was just Pinky.
I just assume he speaks for everybody. No, it's more than him. There's quite a few people. And it's understandable, right? So we don't have the rosters yet, but it's because we're still waiting on some people to kind of finalize whether they're in or they're out. And that makes a big difference, because every one player, impacts the players around him. Because the way we're going to build these teams is we're going to look at chemistry, who plays well together, build some lines, and then what gives us the best chance to be competitive, what gives us the best chance to win. And so, for example, if we were waiting on you, Nav, like let's say you had a work hold up that you were waiting on, and your status was unclear, we would wait for you. We'd wait for everybody, but you're an impact player, and whether you're in or out, that makes a big difference on how these rosters are going to shake out. If you're in, the rosters are going to look one way. If you're out, the rosters are going to look another way. And so there's a handful of these players that we're still waiting on. And to me, it just doesn't make sense to force making these rosters now when we still have plenty of time. And so, you guys get that? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. So no unveiling today. A couple people have asked me, no unveiling of the rosters today.
No, and I don't have it,
Yeah.
Like, I play around with this thing quite a bit. It's not for a lack of effort or putting the thought into it. But at the end of the day, I really want, we're looking for the best possible outcomes here. And so having the most information helps us do that.
Great. So can you answer, like, again, I think the process is sound. I think it clearly shows that you and the team have put some thought into it. Um, where are you leaning towards in terms of rosters? Like, I think the ideal situation, the optimal is to have two teams, to go out there with two teams, which would
Oh
be,
yeah, we're gonna have two teams.
which,
We have more than 30 runners right now and 3 or 4 goalies.
beautiful, beautiful. So, and there's two philosophies, and I want the question that I keep getting then is, are you going to stack an A team? Do you want to stack an A team and have a B team that's kind of players that didn't make the A team? Or where is the kind of current methodology in your mind and in the management team's mind in terms of how it's going to be built? And I'm asking you that not to put you on the spot, but people are asking, and you know that.
Let me get there, but let me kind of
Sure.
it's not as simple as that, right? Because again, there's so many variables. So let me get to the answer. But
Sure.
so when I run these tournaments, and I know you guys have done one or two, but for the people that have gone a lot of times, I think they kind of understand it a little bit better. So when I put these tournaments together, I have like kind of 4 main principles that I have in mind. So first of all, I want these tournaments to be kind of open and available to everybody. I always say that Team Chicago is open to everybody unless you're a Jag, except for me. I'm exempt from that rule. But so we want it to be open for everybody. We want, if you enjoy traveling, competing for these tournaments, we want you to be a part of it.
Inclusive.
It's inclusive, right?
Yeah. Love it.
And then as the guy running it, I really put I take it very seriously that people are going to give up their time. They're going to make the financial commitment to go out there. So for me, it's super important to me that everybody has a great time, whether we win or lose, right? So I want it to be open to everybody, and I want everybody to have a great time. And so when it's all over, I mean, if we win, you're going to have a great time. But the reality is, more often than not, we don't win, and we still have a great time, and guys still want to come back. And so I want to have a great time. The next thing is we want to be competitive. And so, I look at the roster that we have, and then I try and find tournaments in the divisions where I know we can be competitive. I don't believe in building an A team and putting them in the D division just so we can win, right? I want to compete so that when we do win, we know we've earned it. And if we lose, at least we know that we were pushed. It was tough, competitive hockey. And then the fourth component is that we want to win, right? I mean, when we go out there, that is a serious goal. This is tournament hockey. We want to win. And so, I mean, those are kind of like the 4 steps of what I'm looking at. And those things are at odds with each other, right? Because kind of the big determiner of winning, the biggest one is really talent. And if I'm opening it to everybody, that means maybe the less talented players get to come. And so it's a balancing act, right? And so when I do this, like, to me, whether you're the least talented guy or the most talented guy, to me, you're just as important to the team. And to me, I still want you to have a great time. But it gets tricky when you're trying to build competitive teams and then build winning teams. Does that make sense? I mean, what do you got? I mean, so I know I haven't gotten to the A team, B team yet, but
No,
like,
no, that's okay. It makes sense. The part that was the real defining moment in those 4 principles was kind of where you said some things can be at odds with each other. And I think that's where you're going to go next, because if you think about it, it is like, hey, you want to be inclusive, but you want to be competitive. And sometimes those two things don't work out, because let's face it, we have a big community of hockey players and not everybody's the same skill level.
Right.
But what you do find is, to me, it's so important that people, and I think we should get to that at some point, is people should know their role. I think everybody, it's important to know your role. But to your point earlier, in one of your 4 principles, well, people are committing their time too. So people need to know their role, but also know, listen, you're going to spend $300, $400, $500 to come out here. You might not get as much playing time as you would on Wednesday night or Saturday afternoon at a Masters scrimmage.
Right.
Is that, yeah, go ahead.
And that's important. I mean, that's something that I I don't ever want that to be a secret. Like, we don't know exactly how things are going to shape up, but as much as possible, I like people to know what to expect. At least, what I'm thinking. So if you go out to a tournament and say, I might get one shift a game, but I'm happy with it, and I was told ahead of time, it's okay. But if you show up to a tournament thinking you're going to be playing, and you get one shift a game, that's not really fair to that person. And so, so it's tricky, balancing all these things.
To me, I think what it goes down to, and then Stomps, please jump in because I think Frank wants this to be interactive. It's actually setting expectations and it's clearly communicating things with people. And I think that's one of the cornerstones of why we're here today, because we want to have good communication so nobody gets out there, to Frank's point, and they're all surprised because they're riding the pine in the third period with 5 minutes to go, and there's been a decision to shorten the bench. So I think, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm saying setting expectations and communication is critical. Stomps, you have anything for Frank? I know you've been sitting on the fence on this for a while as a maybe.
I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction, the questioning. So obviously, a lot of us have been playing a lot of hockey since last June, in spite of everything, whether it's Woodridge or Palatine or occasionally other places. So Frank, have the tournament organizers communicated anything to you about safety protocols with this tournament? And well, no, I mean, I'm serious.
That's kind of what I'm supposed to ask. Why are you talking about vaccines and safety?
I'm not talking about any vaccines. I'm just talking about
sidetracked so Stomps can talk about the vaccine and who's getting it. I know that's his favorite topic.
We obviously didn't have our tournament, that would have been taking place right around now.
So,
good point.
First and foremost, so the tournament is run through Cool Hockey Events, and they have an event going on this weekend. So they're open for business, right? We went to one. We went to Pittsburgh in November, and now that was a different organization, but I think the protocols are going to be pretty comparable. And the idea is you have to have a mask on until you get onto the rink. You're only allowed in the rink like a certain amount of time before your game. You got to exit the rink after the game. So there are going to be some limitations as far as capacity. They'll kind of expect you to wear a mask and be socially distant, but really, I mean, there is going to be some contact, I would imagine. I mean, obviously when we're playing, we're going to be bumping up against our teammates and the guys from the other team. There's no testing requirement or vaccine requirement. So it's kind of an at-risk, we're going to take whatever reasonable, they'll put in whatever reasonable precautions you can for a big tournament, but it's kind of for each person to decide.
What about
go ahead.
What about away from the rink though? How does that work, hanging out with your teammates? What if restaurants aren't open? And I mean, is everybody going to be like ordering a pizza and being groups of 3 or 4?
I think that's just going to be up to individuals. The state is a little bit more open than ours, I believe. I mean, I think restaurants are open, probably with seating capacities.
Well, you were out there, Frank. You were out there last weekend, right?
I was in New Jersey.
Okay.
And so the restaurants were open, but similar to here, where like one table's open, the next one's closed. There were a group of guys that went out for pizza and drinks. I didn't join them, but I think it was a fairly good sized group that went out. So I think it's going to look different than what we would normally expect, but I definitely think for the guys that want to hang out and enjoy each other's company, that'll happen. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
For the guys who may want to be more careful, they certainly can do that too.
Maybe I'll get a reaction for both of you. And Stomps, I applaud you for bringing up the safety. I was kind of tongue in cheek on that one, but I do applaud you. But maybe I could get a response for both of you on this question. Are they going to make any special exceptions for Dante? Because Dante has recently gotten his vaccine. And does he have to wear a mask, you think? And does he have to behave any differently? I mean, I got to hand it to the guy. He got to the front of the line when there's a lot of other people that need the vaccine. So is there anything special for Dante that you can you can advocate on his behalf?
Yeah, whenever there's an argument with another team or the referee, he has to go up there because he's immune. He can exchange those bodily fluids if needed.
That's painting a tremendous picture for me.
Hey, why doesn't he step up and get the whole team vaccinated?
Listen,
I mean,
I was
if he can pull those strings.
I wasn't going to go there, and he seems to be doing really well. So I don't know. I mean, the big question I want to ask is, did he get the Moderna or the Pfizer, or is he the guinea pig for the Johnson and Johnson? I mean, if he's got
Or did he get some alternative? He's got a guy. I got a guy with a vaccine, right?
he might have contacts to the mafia. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, enough about Dante. All right, okay, let's keep going. Stop. Sorry, buddy.
No, I mean, those were my questions. You just want to get a feel for what it's going to look like.
Yes. So if we want to circle back, because I never did answer, the A team or the B team, kind of taking my way getting there, but there is a difference from tournament play to what we do normally. And so, I kind of look at it, there's like scrimmages, pickup games, then there's league play, and then there's tournament play. When we do, like this afternoon, when we do our scrimmages and the practices, everyone's basically the same. We're all going to be running the same drills, getting the same floor time. It's the same, it's the same experience, right? When we do league play, like rec league play, it's still pretty much your rolling lines. For the most part, everyone gets the same playing time. There's going to be situations in certain games where maybe you'd shorten the bench a little bit. Maybe at the end of the game, a guy gets bumped. But for the most part, that's a situation where, you're still getting your playing time. Tournament play is different, and everyone's got to understand that. I mean, it's the most competitive level that we play at. The teams that we play, there's going to be some really good teams out there, even in the, we're in the Masters B, but there's still going to be really good teams out there and some really like legit top lines, and we do want to win. And so when we play in the tournaments, playing time isn't guaranteed, and everyone's got to understand that. The objective is when we're in that game, it's to win the game. And if that means, the Frank Stomps nav line is going to be out there as much as possible and everyone else has to kind of work around it, that's just the reality of it. Now, obviously, if you're winning big or you're losing big, we just kind of roll the lines. Everyone gets the playing time there. We're not vindictive or punitive about it. It's all just meant, with the goal to win. And so everyone will get an opportunity to play, but depending on team we're playing, the makeup of the lines, different guys are gonna definitely play different amounts.
And they're short games, right, Frank?
Well, on paper they are, but I mean the games are, I think it's 3 11-minute periods, but with stop time. So it's like a 45-minute game slot, 40 or 45-minute game slot. But you got to understand every shift is all out. I mean, it's intense. You need 3 lines, 3 plus really.
Right.
It's not going to be like rec play or like a, Wednesday night in Palatine where we're kind of sauteing up and down the floor. I mean, you're going all out your shifts. When you get to the bench, you're gassed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's a different pace of the game. So there are short games, but you're going to feel it after your game.
Right. And understanding kind of the setup. So there's an A division and there's a B division. If you think about the teams that we're trying to put in, is the mindset that, and again, guys, I'm going back to the questions that I'm receiving on the fly here. Is the mindset that both teams are going to be entered into the B division?
They're both going to be entered into the B division.
Okay.
And so we have like I said, around 30 players right now. So we got two teams. So if I look at all of the talent, if I were to make the absolute best team from that talent and enter them in the A division, that team could probably be competitive, but it would struggle. I mean, it would struggle. And then the B team or whatever team was left, in the Masters B, they would be in big trouble. And so, when I look back, like we talked about these 4 principles, one of them is to be competitive. So if we're going to enter 2 teams, in my mind, both teams have to be competitive. And we have the talent to do that. So, I mean, we can construct the rosters in such a way where both teams are going to be competitive.
Hey,
So,
Frank,
yeah.
is there a chance the two gentlemen's club teams square off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. How about that?
That would be fun, I think.
That would be great. And Frank,
Yeah.
Frank, real quick, sorry to interrupt your train of thought there, but as we're getting closer to the tournament and we start to finalize those rosters, in your mind, does it make good sense for us to start playing with our teams so we can face each other since we're in the scrimmages, since we're in the same division? It would be good to get that level of competition elevated. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we will have the roster set. I mean, honestly, I expect in the next couple weeks to have enough clarity to set some rosters down, with the caveat that, guys are going to jump in and jump out. So there might be some changes, but I think in another couple weeks, I should have enough information, enough clarity on all the guys that I'm waiting on to be able to say, all right, here's this roster, here's that roster, here's what team you're on. And then as we go on, there might be a tweak here or there. So anyway, back to your question. So once we get those rosters, we'll still have a good month and a half to almost 2 months with those rosters. And we will work to build chemistry, line chemistry, team chemistry, to put both teams in the best chance to win.
Great. Keep going.
Yes. So I was before was, we have the talent. We're going to have two competitive teams. So when you go out there, and that, well, I'll get to that in a different point. But when you go out there in this tournament, you're going to be on a team that's going to compete and has a chance to win every game, right? So now I'm looking at the final thing, and that's to win it all, right? That's kind of that's the ultimate, the final goal of what we're aiming for. And the reality is, well, I shouldn't say it that way, but if we really can only do that for one team. We can only make one best team. And so now the thought is, we've got our two competitive teams. Is there a way to tweak one or the other teams to give it that edge? Add another player or two or three, keep this team competitive, but maybe make this team stronger. And that's kind of that's another reason why we're still waiting, because I haven't wrapped my head around that completely. In my mind, we would do it that way. We would have one team it's not necessarily an A and a B team, but one team, we start from two competitive teams. One team, we're going to make it stronger to really kind of push it over the top and give it the best chance to win the tournament. Understanding that's negatively impacting that other team. But at the same time, that team will still be good enough to compete to win. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense to me in terms of philosophy. Stomps, does that shift you more into the yes column, or do you still need more?
Probably, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I don't really. I was going to ask Frank, how would this is just maybe coaching or whatever you want to call it, or leadership. What do you do if somebody is stretching their shifts too long?
I just yell at them in the moment. I mean, it's difficult because I'll be playing too.
Right.
Like,
and you'll be on one team. You won't be able to see both teams always either.
Well, I may jump on the bench of the other team if they want me to, but so for like, in Palatine, when we had the A team last year, I didn't play, but I coached. So if the guys were getting a little long, I would just remind them, hey, short shifts. If something like that were to happen, I would just say, hey guys, like, keep it in mind. Let's get the shifts a little shorter. And if you just bring it up, I mean, it's generally not done intentional, not in a tournament. I mean, I know this happens like at Woodridge or scrimmages where guys just stay out there forever, but it doesn't really happen in tournaments. I mean, most guys buy into the team and they really just want to go out there and do what's best for the team. And so if they're taking long shifts, if you just say, hey, shorten the shift, they're like, oh, sorry, it wasn't. And then it kind of fixes like that. in all the years, you know,
Sure.
we don't have bad guys, you know,
No, I don't think
and
so.
so sometimes it gets like like I said, that's why I said I'll yell. It's because I'm running around, I'm fired up, I'm you know the intensity of the game. And if someone says, hey, they're taking a short shift, I'll go, hey, you know, I'll just bark at them. It's not meant to be mean. It's just that, you know, the emotions are high. But really, if you just bring it up, and guys are talking on the bench the whole time, and people will listen. You know, they'll listen to their teammates.
Yeah. Did you have anyone in mind that takes long shifts, Stomps, or?
No, no.
Yeah, the guy in the purple shirt.
I don't know if I have the energy. I don't have the endurance to take long shifts.
Yeah, I know. Don't we all?
Okay, keep going, Frank. We'll open it up to questions. There also, for those of you who are watching, you're here live with Stomps and I on the Neutral Zone, Season 2, Episode 6, where we have Frank Klein as our special guest, giving you all the ins and outs of the upcoming Masters tournament on the weekend of April 9th through the 11th. So please throw some questions in on the live Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, feel free to text either Stomps or myself, and we'll ask these questions to Frank. So we're making this interactive because I know people want to know things. So guys, I would say one thing for those of you who ask a lot of questions to all of us. This is your chance, right? Throw the questions out there. Don't be passive aggressive. Please share the questions because I think
Be
we're
aggressive.
yeah. Okay, Frank,
Well,
did you have?
one last thing I'd like
Yeah.
to kind of talk about it, and then so like there's a bit of a gap between you know the way that a player looks at these tournaments and the way I do as the guy organizing it, and I think it's good like if everyone kind of understands this. So when I ask someone to come to a tournament or they're thinking about it, you know, they're saying, all right, what do I have going on that weekend? Do I have to work? Do I have a family commitment? All right, if I have the weekend open, how much is it going to cost me? I got to, you know, maybe gas or plane tickets, hotel, Ubers, whatever, jerseys, entry fees. All right. So now I know what it's going to cost me. All right. So what am I going to get out of it? And that's like the natural thing. How, you know, who am I going to play with? Are we going to win? How much playing time am I going to get? And those are the things like that are most important to the players. But like when I'm looking at it as the guy putting the whole thing together,
Mhm.
you know, I appreciate and I understand those things, but like I have to have a kind of a different point of view. Like, first of all, am I going to get enough guys to enter a team? Right. You know, if I throw it out there and 7 guys sign up, well, I don't have a team, you know, so do I have enough guys to even enter the team? And then, you know, can we be competitive? Can we win? So for me, like, you know, in this case in particular, you know, we have like with the goalies, like 33, 34, 35 players, right?
Mhm.
And there's just, we have to pick a way to kind of divide this up and to run the lines and to run the games. And it's going to be different. If I did it, if you did it, if Stomps did it, we'd all have different ways of doing it. And so no matter how I slice it, people are going to be, some people might be disappointed, but it's not personal. I just hope everyone understands that. You know, I'm just trying to, like, from the club perspective, what makes the most sense for the club and for the most players in the most ways, you know?
Yeah, and that actually Stomps that what Frank just said could be a nice transition to one of your questions. I think it's an anonymous question that came from somebody. It's question number 3. From you were going to take 1 and 3. It's an anonymous question.
Yeah.
I think this is the great time to ask that question to Frank.
Yeah. Let me find it. Will you really consider the opinions of your selected leadership group in selecting the teams for the Masters tournament, as you have not done this in the past with other teams such as the Raiders?
No.
Anonymous.
So I should I address that to Billy directly?
Oh boy.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
I will certainly consider all opinions. I mean, I do have a hard time, like, there's a lot of things that I genuinely, I don't know the answer to. And that's like, I want help. And so if I have a question about how to do something and I ask you and you give me opinion, that's what I'm going to do. But at the same time, there are certain situations where I have really strong opinions. Like, I think this is the right way to do things or the wrong way to do things. And I have a real hard time kind of going against something that I strongly believe in. And so if the management team were to say, hey, I think we should we should do this or we should do that, and I fundamentally disagree with it, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time going along with that.
Even if it's 3-1?
Even if, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I might get outvoted. I'm only one person. But yeah, I mean, like I have a real hard time going against things that I fundamentally disagree with.
Right.
And now there's a lot of things where in most situations, like we disagree. And if I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted. I don't have a problem with that. But there's a handful of things where they're kind of like red line issues with me.
You're just convinced. You know that this is the right way to go, and nothing's going to change your mind. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you're just so sure. And that's not one
Yeah,
of those.
like let's say someone came to me and said, I don't like Nav. I think he's a terrible guy. I don't want him on the team. If he's on the team, I'm not going. You know what I mean? I'd be like, sorry, that's not the way we do things. And now maybe that's the best player on the team who's saying this. And so it gets to a point where it's between the best player on the team and you. It doesn't matter to me. Fundamentally, we don't act that way. We don't treat people that way. And so like, if my management team said, no, we have to kick Nav off the team to make this best player happy, I'd be like, well, then I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be any part of that. So that's what I mean. Like, as far as a red line issue.
No.
Now, let's say I said, I think Nav is a better player than this guy, but the other three guys says, I think that guy's a better player than Nav. Then I would say, okay, that's reasonable. I would go along with that.
Okay. And I think in seeing some of your early designs and constructs of the rosters, I will give you that credit because you have not budged on certain things. There's certain players that you had said, and again, I'm not sharing anything confidential here, but listen, there's certain things that are fundamental to making this tournament a good experience. Hey, this person wants to play with this person, and I think we can make it work. And I've seen you kind of do that with the construct. So credit to you on that. Credit to you. So thanks for that. That's a good explanation for me. Stomps, are you satisfied with that answer?
Yeah, definitely. I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not in the inner circle per se, but I've heard some rumblings about bringing guys into the Masters fold that haven't been around in 2 or 3 years, or haven't played much at all, and almost jumping the line. Do we see any of that happening, or is that just chatter?
There's two ways to look at it, right? And I'm kind of both minds. So on one hand, I like to think that I'm pretty loyal to the guys that have been around for a long time. I mean, I keep a track of every tournament that I've run, who's played, how many tournaments that they've played in. And so those guys that have been there year after year, that means something to me. And I fight for those guys. And so if there's a call between, let's say there's 2 players that you can pick, you have one spot, you have 2 players to choose from, and they're comparable guys, and one guy's been part of the team, I'll go with the guy who's been part of the team. But at the same time, if you're only catering to loyalty and the people who've been around, you can never grow. You can never get new people. And so you're loyal to all those guys, but what happens when one of those guys or a couple of those guys, life gets in the way and they step away from the sport? Meanwhile, you've been alienating all these potential new people because of loyalty. And now what happens? And that was like the situation I think Team Chicago was in, when I first took over, was that, they had only catered to a certain set of players and kind of alienated everybody else. And then, when that set of players started falling away, there was nothing left. And so I've always had the mindset that, you know, this is a recreational sport. I mean, as passionate as we get about it, it's a recreational sport. And so life always takes precedence. And so if somebody steps away for a couple of years, well, that doesn't mean they're a bad guy or we don't want them to be part of the group. It just means that, you know, they had life priorities that got in the way. And so do I not want that guy in? I mean, that's to me, that's crazy. And so I want this to be open to everybody. And so when, you know, this is kind of a new thing, you know, Lou started up this idea, you know, about a year ago. But like I really kind of laid the foundation for this club in particular a month ago. And this is a chance for everyone to get in. This is the time.
Yep, yep.
So if you've been stepping away, if you've been around forever, that's great. And if you haven't, come on board. You know, I mean, like they say, a rising tide raises all ships. You know, the more players we have, the more opportunities it creates for everybody. The more games we can set up, the more leagues we can set up, the more tournaments we could play. I mean, it's just, so I don't want to turn away anybody. I mean, if you're a jerk about it, then all right, then, you know, be on your way. But I have no problem with, you know, if someone stepped away for a couple of years, no, I don't hold that against them.
Hey, Frank, it's almost like I don't know if you have a special deal with Verizon and you're suspicious, you're able to read these text messages because you're answering questions before I can even ask them to you. I just received another anonymous question for you. It's related to what you had
Really?
expressed. It's kind of related, so I'd love you to sort of address it. And you've addressed it before on the show, so forgive us for bringing it up again. But I think it's something that people want to hear from you. It's not necessarily related to the Masters, but it is related to your philosophy. So I think we can ask you this. So here's my question: what was your thinking in breaking apart the Raiders and replacing them with younger guys when we had such wonderful chemistry and success for several years?
Didn't we talk about this already? Raiders are done, man.
Obviously, the answer wasn't satisfactory to this person.
Wow.
So we're going there. Yeah, no. Listen, I had a love-hate relationship with running the Raiders for a long time. I mean, I loved the team, I loved the group of guys, but they didn't always love me back. Okay, and there were plenty of times over the years where I said, "Listen, I just don't want to deal with this," because, you know, like I said, you know, the real life gets in the way, and so, you know, people would step away from the team, and then we're shorthanded, and it was always kind of left to me, at least for the last handful of years, to replace them. All right, now I have to go find new players because someone else stepped away, and now we got more players, and then those players come back in, and now we have extra players, and sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't work. Just the day-to-day running of the thing, texting everybody every week, twice a week, collecting the money, dealing with the other captains, dealing with the league. It gets old, man. I mean, how many, you know, I'll talk to other guys that run teams for like a session and they complain about it and they're like, oh, this is, you know, we should never do this. I'm like, well, do it for 10 years, you know, and see where your head's at.
Right.
And so like I had asked other people to take it over. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I don't want to, I mean, I love being part of the team, but I don't, you know, I don't want to be the leader of it necessarily. And even there were times like, you know, like I said, other people stepped away. I never felt like I could. Like I felt like if I step away, the team's going to fall apart. And then we got to a point where, you know, I'm looking at this list of players that we had, and there's like guys that were to me core players that hadn't played in years, and so many of them. And to me, it was like I was frustrated with it. I got to the point where it's like this doesn't even feel like the Raiders per se. And so that was like, well, that's, you know, I said, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm just going to fold the team. And then somebody else ran the team for one session. And then I think I jumped back in for one more. And then I said, that's it. I just don't want to do it anymore.
Okay. I think for the one who submitted that question, again, it is something we've talked about before. If you're still not satisfied with that response, I say you talk to Frank directly. I hope, Frank, you have an open door policy.
I do have an open door policy. This would be my first question that I would ask that guy. What team did he run that he invited me to play on? And that never happened. You know what I mean? And that was part of it. Like, it's just the expectation that I would just lead it and run it.
Right.
And so maybe someone else could have done that.
Right. Let's get a little bit more lighthearted here. Okay. This show is, all about being neutral, but I don't want it to be too serious. We're going to get to that.
We got to get people fired up. That's how you drive the ratings.
Yeah. So
I'm
speaking
gonna have
of
a big target on my back this afternoon.
well, listen, Stomps is going to pepper in some questions. We have some really good questions, goalie questions. But Stomps, if you're okay, can we pepper those in kind of as we talk about players? Let's get to the players segment because we're 52 minutes into the show here.
Yeah.
We got.
Yeah. So we got that practice in 2 hours. At this rate, we will probably be there after the drill. Let's talk a little bit about Eddie Switek. What are your thoughts of him as a player, both developmentally? Is he challenged in any ways? What is he?
He's challenged. I mean, just walking out the door is a challenge for that guy.
Right.
So, we talked about building the teams and like the thing is the talent. How do you move around the talent? How does it all fit together? So you have to evaluate players. And I have my own little system of how I do that. I would say Eddie's a solid 2 out of 5. He's a two-star player. But yeah, challenge is a good word for him. I think getting on the rink is a challenge. Shooting is a challenge. Passing is a challenge. Defense is a challenge. But I like him. He's a good dude.
So he basically checks 1 box out of, or 2 boxes out of 5 for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow. Great for his confidence. All right. Eddie, I hope you still come to practice this afternoon. According to Frank, I think you need it. Okay. How about our good friend, veteran in the game?
I thought we were going to go back and forth.
Okay. Yeah, because, you go, it's you next. Sorry.
I want to bring up everyone's favorite, Mr. Brian Ganutek.
Oh, that was my guy too.
Right. So I've known Brian, like, I don't know, it's got to be close to 30 years now. And he is like the real life Johnny Lawrence. I mean, he was a, back in the day, I mean, he was talented, but he kind of rubbed everybody the wrong way. Kind of had a bad persona. Nobody really liked the guy, to be honest with you. But now fast forward to 2020, 2021, and it's kind of like the revitalization, and you realize, well, maybe he was misunderstood. And so I kind of like this new version of Brian Ganutek. He's like he's like Johnny Lawrence. And so
well, he's the main character, basically.
He is. Yeah.
I mean, on Wednesday, did you see what happened to him on Wednesday as we were walking out of the rink?
I did. It's perfect, right? It's a totally Johnny Lawrence move.
Wow.
All right, you go next, Stomps, because
I just did. I just went with Ganutek.
I know, but I wouldn't. You take 2 in a row because I keep stealing.
All right. How about Carlo?
Carlo. Oh man. Well, as a musician, I give him a 5. He's a 5-star musician. He's and when he brings that to the team, we've been on tournaments where he starts. He's got his guitar and he's playing and everyone's singing along. It's wonderful. So as far as like providing that experience that we all appreciate on a tournament weekend, that's key. As a finisher, again, even at his advanced age, I would give him 5 stars. I mean, he's got those silky mitts, the backhander. If he could just get on the other side of the red line and play a little defense from time to time, I think he'd be all right. And he's a great strategist.
Okay.
The lob. His favorite play. You could use it any time, at any point of the game, in any situation.
Right.
Shorthanded, lob. Power play, lob.
Well, speaking of defensive players and the lob, and I wanted to get your opinion on this next player and if you think he has any hopes of being a Selkie Trophy winner, Dan Bruner.
Did you say Selkie? I haven't checked up on my postseason awards. Isn't that for the best defensive forward?
Yes.
If he could learn how to play defense, he would be probably the best player at our age group. But as it stands, he's middling at best.
Oh,
I give him 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay, so a little bit better than Swiatek.
Slightly.
Stomps.
But he's not as good a dude as Swiatek.
Swiatek is a great dude. Hang on one second.
See why it's hard to put the rosters together?
I did that on purpose because we needed a little bit of music. Okay, let's go back. You were saying something, Frank.
You could see why it's hard to put these rosters together. You could see what players I'm dealing with.
well, let me give you a new name, a new to our scene. How about Scotty Leclaire?
Scotty Leclaire. He's a tall drink of water. He's got a really good shot. So I like that. He has some offensive skills. But I got to be honest with you, he just seems like too nice of a guy for our community. Like he just seems like at the end of the game when you're in the handshake line and he says good game, I think he really means it. So I don't know. I worry about guys like that.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's a pretty good assessment, actually.
I'll give him 3 stars. He's easily as good as Bruner, right?
Bruner, well, I want to make this anonymous, but speaking of Bruner, he did have a question for you, and I don't. Sorry, I gave your question away, Bruner.
He's anonymous.
Yeah, it's an anonymous question from Dan Bruner. In 2019, at the last Masters Championship game, who scored a hat trick to help lead Team Chicago to the championship?
Well, since I'm going to have to say Dan Bruner.
And does that change his 3
Listen,
stars to 3?
every dog has its day. I stand by 3 stars.
All right.
He was also a -4 in that game. So
Oh. All right. Okay. Stomps, you want to go?
I got an anonymous question coming in, and this is a personal one for Frank.
okay.
So there's been, for many years, there were attempts to recruit you to the Bearcats, and you've just been too good to join. You don't check enough of the Bearcat boxes, like being fat, old, stupid, drunk, and physical skill sets eroding and so forth.
I think that sums up my game completely.
So how many more hours, days, weeks, or months do you think it will be before you qualify to join the Bearcats?
I'm ready. So where's my contract?
I think the guy wanted you to say yesterday. That's a great one. That's a great one.
How about Lucky Tallis, the Golden Greek?
Lucky. Oh, he's an angry one. I wasn't prepared for a Lucky. I didn't think that one was going to come.
It's all about surprises.
I mean, I guess you have to get an extra star because he's Canadian. You guys, something in the bloodstream up there. Nav, I'll give you an extra star. So with that extra star, I'll give him 2 stars.
Lucky, I hope you're watching. If anything, that'll motivate you to start coming to the practices.
I mean, listen, I haven't seen the guy in a long time. I love him. He's another good guy. Away from the rink. I can't say a bad thing about him. But I had this envision in my head that he's spending the COVID like I did, and he's up to about 3 spins. So we'll have to see what he looks like when he gets to town.
Wow. Do you have any comments you can share? Here's a guy. Speaking of nice guys, you said outside the rink, but how about Brett Thunberg.
Yeah, he's got some skills. You know, there's some players. You know, when I evaluate players, I kind of look at, you know, some of them are a little more offensive minded, some of them are a little defensive minded. Well, Brett's neither.
So just a nice guy that can run.
I don't even know if he's a nice guy, to be honest with you.
Wow. Go ahead.
Wow,
Go ahead, Stomps.
now you can't say nothing bad about this next person. Another newbie, John
Yes, he
Trapani.
can. Oh, yes, he can.
John Trapani.
Well,
Oh,
John Trapani, I mean, he should be fitting that guy for a pine box. I mean, he's, what is he, in his 70s? He must have his vaccine too. Was he in line with Dante?
I think Dante punched him in the face so he could get ahead of him.
No, I like Johnny. He's a good guy. He's got some hockey skills. I wish he would have been part of the group, you know, for years, honestly. I mean, I think he fits in with us already. So,
Wow, that brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah,
That was very touching.
we're a little impartial to John Trapani here on the show. I think your answer was good. Chelly.
Yeah, that was my next.
oh, Charlie. You know what? I have a rule that I never say a bad word about Chell, and I'm gonna, and there's nothing bad I could say about him. The guy's a prince. He's the Polish prince. He's at this level, he's a 5-star player. He's on my Mount Rushmore of Chicago ball hockey players, and he's a dear friend and a joy to be around. So what else can I say?
Well, you
Oh
can
my
say
God.
this because he had a question for you, and it doesn't need to be anonymous because Chelly's a man of few words. And he did have few words on his question for you today.
Okay.
And he was, can you please ask Frank if he thinks he's still terrific?
If I'm terrific,
Yeah. Do you still think you're terrific?
is there any question? Is there any doubt in anybody's mind?
Well, there you go, Chelly. Stomps, you got any more for Frank?
Pinky, Ryan Oswald.
Oh, boy.
Pinky.
Can of worms.
You know, there's only 2 guys in the entire club that I really don't like, and Pinky's both of them. He gets one bright, shiny pink star.
Not even a red star for Pinky.
I wonder if he was in line with Dante to get that vaccine.
Yeah, right.
He might be hoarding them. He's got them in his freezer or something.
He's an
What about my co-host?
Oh boy.
Oh, Nav, the hatchet man. How many careers have you ended?
I don't know, maybe half a dozen.
I'm going to give you the Deerfield area 3 stars.
Oh, because me and Bruno are in the same town, we both get 3
Yeah,
stars.
because you guys are neighbors, right? Somewhat.
We'll take 6 out of 5. All right.
Yeah. So, yeah, together, you guys are a phenomenal player.
Thanks a lot, Stomps. We'll put Stomps on the hook here.
Oh, Stomps is a 5-star player.
5-star restaurants, maybe, but
5 stars. The one great thing about Stomps, when I was running the Raiders, he was the first one to pay every time, no questions. And when you're running a team of deadbeats, that's appreciative.
money's no object.
He's a man of means.
Well, hey, since I asked about Stomps, can I say something about Stomps? Because Stomps actually, and he'll never say this. And Stomps, I'm going to embarrass you here for a second. To the guys who are watching this on the management team from Woodridge, Stomps has not only went out there to be part of the cleanup crew on multiple occasions, but he's also invested his own money in making sure that Woodridge happens. And he never talks about it, The only way I know that is because I steal his bank statements every month. I know what he's spent, and I know that he spent money to make hockey keep on going. So that's a testament, Frank. I mean, he's the first guy to pay. He's the first guy to spend his own money, but he never talks about it. A true gentleman, and I think that's why we give him a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. And the great thing about our sport in this area is that he's not a unicorn that way. There's a lot of guys who step up whenever needed, whether it's donating their time or their leadership or their money in that case. I mean, that's, if it wasn't for guys like that, for guys like Stomps, guys putting the show together, like none of this would exist for any of us. So that's awesome.
Uh,
I appreciate it, and we need more of it. I mean, hopefully guys look to Stomps and say, yeah, I mean, all right, he does it. If we all do, a little bit of what he's doing, I mean, it makes it better for everybody.
and it's definitely not just me. I mean, there's a lot of people that chip in their time, or I just do what I can just to help. It's not a big deal, believe me. I mean, I just enjoy it. So
Hey, well, we're going to wrap up shortly. For those of you who are watching season 2, episode 6 of the Neutral Zone. Frank, I got 3 lighthearted questions for you. We're going to transition away from players, and then Stomps pick up in between if you have questions. Frank, do you recommend any specialty restaurants in the Philadelphia area?
In the Philadelphia area. You're getting a Chicky and Pete's, right?
There we go.
Chicky and Pete's. They have one in the casino right next to the hotel we'll be staying at. So we can go to that Chicky and Pete's. Yeah, it's a Ryan will love it. I mean, he would probably die just walking in there. I think there's something about it would just kill a vegan just being in their presence. But
Right. Are you going to make it mandatory for all the Masters players to have their liver flukes vaccine prior to entering into the Philadelphia metropolitan area?
I'd have to pass that to Stomps. He's our vaccine expert, right? He's all over that.
no, I don't know about that, but and probably somebody like a Dan Bruner, who is a Philadelphia guy, would probably rip me. But my 2 choices for food in Philly are either Pat or Gino's. They're right across the street from each other, renowned for their cheesesteaks. And
Wait! I sorry to interrupt. There is a great place to get pizza. So we went to Philly about 2 years ago. Miles had seen on the Barstool Sports, they do the one bite pizza reviews. So there's this place in this neighborhood in Philly. It's kind of near like the Liberty Bell area, but it's so you go in there and there's a line out the door. There's no tables or anything. It's just the the restaurant front, and you get your food, and people are eating it in the streets. But it's like famous to Philly. It's been there a few years now, and so we went there, and a couple of the guys waited in line. The rest of us went down the street to have a beer. Man, I'm telling you, this pizza was delicious. It was.
We got to get a name, Frank. We got to get a name.
I can look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna hit that when we get to town.
What we like to do on the show is highlight restaurants. We tag them on Instagram, and then hopefully we can help these businesses. We don't know if Chicky and Pete's needs any more help. They seem to be doing really well. Hey, speaking of Bruner, Stomps, you brought up Bruner. Do you think we could reach out to Dan Bruner and find out if he knows any good lobster or places you can have crab legs? Do you think that he might have some recommendations?
I guarantee when we get down there, Danny's he's gonna put together an impromptu tour of the city. And you think I'm joking? No.
I was in on one of those.
He'll create a walking tour that'll show us all the highlights of his. I mean, he loves his town. You gotta respect that. He loves his town. He loves to show it off. But
yeah,
I mean, like, you'll walk around, you'll get to see some pretty cool things. He'll take you to some good places to get some food, and
right.
yeah. So definitely, when you get to town, just find out what Danny's doing.
Right. Well, we saw the house that he grew up in. We saw his elementary school. We saw his Montessori. We saw the greatest ice cream place of all time. Okay. Really, really exciting stuff here. Stomps, any closing questions, or Frank, any closing thoughts before we wrap up the neutral zone here?
I've got some other things in the works, so maybe like another month or so, you'll have me back on, and kind of talk about some other things, Chicago ball hockey besides the Masters Club.
We did have one more that just a late breaking question that just came in before we wrap up here. Yeah, here we go.
Is it anonymous, or are you gonna rat them out?
No, I'll just keep it anonymous. But as I read the question, you're gonna know who it is. Here we go. Frank, we know that you hate everyone,
With a passion.
but sometimes your hate is not equal, this person believes. Why do you hate goalies even more? And it's
Well,
not the goalie you think it is. It's a different goalie. It's
I always said how beautiful a game hockey would be if they could find out how to play it without goalies. Every game I've ever played in my entire life, if the goalie stopped all the shots, I wouldn't have lost, right? I could literally be undefeated if my goalies could stop all the pucks or balls.
all right. Well, there you go. We had.
I hope just on a
Yeah.
closing note, I hope everyone knows that we're just having some fun here, right? I mean, like that's, to me, that's part of the joy of the team, is we kind of have some fun with each other. And so
You got to bust chops.
I mean, Danny's still a 3-star player, but he realizes that we're just having some fun with him.
Yeah, I think this went really well. I think if anyone has any hurt feelings, please send something in the message box. Stomps looks at that weekly, and he makes sure he puts it in his paper shredder right away.
And as far as like the Masters, the rosters thing, I mean, like, again, like Nav, you're on the committee that I'm going to overrule to build these teams. But no, I mean, you're on the committee, so you see like the different ways we're kind of looking at this thing, and like, we'll put together one roster, in the morning, and then in the afternoon something completely different, and it's just, guys can't take it personally. We're definitely trying to put everyone in the best position for like the club at large. And if people have like specific questions or even general questions, like, the best way is to talk to us directly, and try and get because there are no like hidden agendas. We may make the wrong decisions, but they're done with the right intentions. And so I'm always happy to tell you where my head's at.
Couple of comments on Facebook before we wrap up here. I just wanted to share them. Maybe you could get them live reaction. So Dante is aggressively trying to recruit Steve Givens, and Steve Givens is such a humble guy. He's like, I don't know if I should play, because don't you want the teams to be competitive? And then Dante said something really nice here where he said, hey, Steve, it's about getting people together that love hockey, and I enjoy being around this environment. So it's nothing about talent. That's the gentleman's club. And then they were having a little love fest back and forth, which is great. Eddie Switek says in response, he says, it's going to take a lot more than that, guys, to get me not to come to practice today. What a great sport.
Yeah, I told you he's a good dude.
And then Dante, I don't know what Dante means.
Hey, let me just respond real quick to the thing about Steve is that's absolutely right. I mean, like this club is open to all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for all the guys that want to play. The tournament, and he's welcome to the tournament. The tournament, like I said, that's a little more competitive, like if he may or may not feel comfortable doing that. But like, as far as just coming out and being with the guys week to week or whenever he's available, absolutely. I mean, would love to have him.
Yeah, he's
Steve.
We love Steve Givens. Very good answer, Dante, to Steve, and that's exactly what everyone here, not just management team, is trying to build. So any closing comments, guys, before we wrap up here? Got to go back and shovel.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see a lot of you guys in a couple hours.
Hey, Frank, you're always welcome on the show. We love having you part of this community. An anonymous somebody anonymous just wanted to have me express, and I can't ignore any of these text messages. Just thank you for doing everything. That's what this person said. You stepped up for the Chicago ball hockey community all these years, whether people like you or don't like you, or like your strategy or your approach to things. You've never been shy to come on camera and answer the questions. And it is a difficult spot. Not everyone's going to agree, and I think we've talked about this. You can't make everybody happy, but somebody's got to lead, right? And this person who's going to remain unnamed is thanking you for your services.
Well, you need a big picture person, right? Because everybody's got their own little world they live in, but you need somebody that brings it all together. So we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and there's a million different ways, different ideas of how to do this thing. And the more people we get involved, more people we get playing, the more people we get running teams, more people we get taking the lead, kind of the more opportunities there are to fill all those different kind of viewpoints. Like we can do more things with more good people on board,
Right.
So spread the word.
And yeah,
And not just for the G Club, for we're gonna be working on some women's programs coming up this summer. So we're gonna be expanding in that route, and then hopefully the end of the year we can get something going with kids, and then obviously the kind of the core group of the adults is where you're talking about, like, the younger guys in their 20s. So I mean, like, it's not just for us, it's let's get everyone, let's create a bigger community of good people who enjoy the sport.
right. And Frank, have you recently started an Instagram page for the Raiders?
Young Gabe, he did.
Oh, that's young Gabe. Okay,
Yeah.
good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'm following that, so that's important. And then the NBHL has a couple of their local chapters, and they have those pages as well. So what I'd like to do is highlight for anybody watching today, please, if you're on Instagram, please follow the NBHL Chicago Instagram page. Feel free to follow the other ones as well. Frank, what's your favorite local restaurant in Elmhurst?
Without a doubt, it's and I always get the name wrong. My kids make fun of me. It's Pizza to Patsy, or Patsy to Pizza, something like that. I think it's called Pizza to Patsy. Actually, two of my daughters work there. I should know the name. The food is phenomenal. Stomps, I'm telling you, it's an Italian place. You got to go there. It's when I was a kid, my great grandmother would make the hand rolled the gabardines. This restaurant has that, and she would make the meatballs. This restaurant has the cavatelli and the meatballs, and it's the closest thing to my great grandmother's that I've had. It's a wonderful place. The food is phenomenal. It's a great atmosphere. So if you're ever in town,
Check it out.
Yeah, we're gonna check that out.
Maybe the three of us will go there when we can take our masks off and go eat together.
Pizza to Patsy, and we'll get the name right. I'll do a little bit of research on that. Get that restaurant, some advertising. Stomps, any other restaurants we missed last week what'd you have this week? Anything we want to highlight? Any small businesses?
I like a couple, Taco Dale and Bolingbrook is excellent. And I don't know if you've heard of Colonial, right? They're famous for their ice cream, and they have the big kitchen sink sundae that is literally served in a kitchen sink. Well, they have a few restaurants around. They've stepped up their game menu wise, and they do a real nice job. Colonial.
Okay, and did you say that's in Naperville?
That is in Naperville, but they also have locations in, like, St. Charles and other Batavia, I think, something like that.
Great. Frank, any dessert places you go to in your area? Coffee, frozen yogurt, anything?
I'm actually not a big dessert guy. I enjoy my cookies at the end of the night, but as far as, like, fancy desserts, no. But there's a Kilwins in town, which is kind of like
I've been there before. That's in the downtown Elmhurst, right? Near the
it's right next to the movie theater.
Yeah.
They do, like, so we'll get actually, like, the homemade fudge and some of the, they've got ice creams and some homemade candies that are pretty good.
Love it. Love it. Guys, thank you for your ongoing support of small businesses. Frank, thanks again for being a guest. Before we wrap up, just special congratulations again to Dante for getting the vaccine. Um, we're very glad you're immune. And then to all the other 29 players who probably already have the antibodies, because let's face it, you're all lying. You've all had COVID, and when you say you can't make a game, you've probably had COVID. Congrats again, Frank. Look forward to having you back. Stomps, great questioning, and we're gonna wrap. Frank, we're gonna have a quick debrief here after the show, so please stick around. We're gonna close.